It's been 5 long days since this Zone 5 has opened, and we have finally won. Let's talk about it. Yes, I am talking about the infamous 2489 versus 1960 KVK. The KVK that I currently have the pleasure of playing in and streaming. And yeah, for the past couple of days, 4 days straight, we have been streaming the fights in the zone. And this KVK going into it was hyped up to be one of the best KVKs of the year, a great KVK to end off the year with. So in today's video, we are going to be recapping the first fighting zone on this KVK so that you'll be caught up for the rest of the zones. Let's get into it. As with every zone opening, it started off with the pass forms. And in a KVK that is super competitive, such as 1960 2049, in a wide open zone, it's imperative that you put down your forts first. You could block fort spots with your own forts, you could block flags with forts. There's just so many things they can do with fort blocks. That's exactly what both sides did. Both passes honestly taken within 1 second away from each other, and the random teleport battle started. And this is probably one of the KVKs where both sides were random teleporting like crazy. I've never seen so many random teleports in a KVK before. But yeah, we all random teleported. I was random teleporting even at 89 million power. And we ended up being in a decent spot and started open field fighting. The main objective in this zone are the holy sites. There are 2 holy sites that give 10% march speed, which, you know, there's one on each side, not the end of the world. The main holy site was in the middle here, which gave 3% all damage. 3% all damage is quite a bit of all damage, and you know, that is the objective, the main thing that both sides were fighting for. So both sides were rushing to build forts around that holy site, as well as deny the enemy forts around that holy site. Throughout the first couple of hours, it was kind of a back and forth, each side winning and losing certain murder balls depending on where the murder ball was. For example, if it was closer to 2049's territory, with the refreshes, they would eventually win the murder balls. But over time, 1960, I would definitely say, had more open field presence and had more open field control, which allowed us to build our flags faster to the holy site. And because of that, we were able to get closer and closer teleport spots and eventually protect our own forts while threatening the 2489 fort. It actually got to the point where, as the fort was building, we were able to get a touch point and start attacking the fort. I believe it did take us a couple of rallies. They were able to defend us for quite a bit of time actually, but eventually we kept whittling down their open field slowly but surely, clearing out the open field, having the swarmers available, and we eventually burned down the building forts. With their fort being burnt, they no longer had any touch points to the holy site we were fighting after. So that was actually a huge win for us. They were still able to build flags to the holy site, but they would no longer have any forts touching the holy site, which drastically decreased the amount of pressure they would have to contest it. They did have a couple of wins though. For example, we were caught being lackadaisical and they were able to burn one of our building forts, but we quickly started focusing up, rebuilt that same fort, and that fort was able to build, which essentially ended their contention for the main holy site. After that, I believe 960 pretty much accomplished all they needed and all they wanted to do in this zone. They were able to take the first holy site on our side with 10% march speed, and we were able to secure the 3% all damage by surrounding it with forts. Because of this, we actually didn't need to rally into the fort wall that 2489 started to build. For 2049, I believe they didn't want to rally into us as well. These forts, by the way, especially when they're built, super hard, especially in the early zones, to burn down, because forts have 3 million reinforcement capacity compared to flags, which only have 2 million, meaning that your rally leads would need to max out their troop capacity, their rally capacity, so that you can have the same amount of troops as the forts. So rallying into forts is actually super disadvantageous, and neither side wanted to take the losses or felt like that this zone was worth the losses. Again, this zone doesn't really mean too much for the overall scope of the KVK. King of All Britain is what I've been calling a spicy heroic anthem, where that zone 5, bragging rights, sure, the stats are actually better, sure, 3% all damage, but at the end of the day, they'll still have access to the zone 6 and eventually Kingsland. Alright, let us get back into game here so that we can see how much we've used in this zone, how much KP we've gained. Unfortunately, not as much as I would want. I'm at about 600 million KP, for the zone. Again, a lot of the zone, especially during 2049's downtime, was this weird city hopping, KP chasing, bad trading situation, and I just wasn't really interested. But I was on for majority of the fort burns and the opening fights where we were able to secure our territory, and that's where I got majority of my KP. We could go ahead and look at the stats here in the window. We are at 515,000 units killed, a lot of archer rallies. So I was one of the people rather that filled the archer rallies when we were burning down the forts. Also, I think I've gotten, we could go ahead and check in the stratagem here, I've gotten 59k dead troops from do or die, which is the stratagem which gives you 10% more damage. Yes, but the downside is 2% of your sev wounds becomes dead, so 60k deads from that as well. So that is my deads. You could go ahead and look at the resources spent. 13.3 billion 13.3 billion for 4 days of fighting. I mean, it is realistically for me is more like 2 days of fighting. I definitely don't know if I have enough resources for the rest of this KVK. I might have to actually reach out to Redline, because he's like, yo, trust me, I got you with the resources. So I might DM this guy at 7.3, 7.3, 7.8, 7.3. I still didn't go down my bag yet. Like I'm still decent in terms of bag resources because I didn't have to open up anything. Let's go ahead and check my speed ups. Speed ups, I'm still pretty decent. I'm still pretty decent on speed ups. I've definitely used more than the 140-ish days that differential, but you know, a lot of the gold chests sustaining me and putting me back up. So not too many speed ups used. If you guys are wondering how I've traded, so this is how I've traded. Again, shout out to CubasMike every single time I use this thing. I'm just amazed. The CubasMike report calculator. I have traded 1.26 KP ratio, 1.28 kill ratio, 1.25 power ratio. So my trades have been really bad this KVK. I'm usually at a 1.5, 1.6, maybe even 2. But yeah, this has been probably one of my worst trading KVKs. And as I said, a lot of the fights have been just us in their cities and getting out of position and sad facing. So my best performing March with a large sample size is actually Liuche with Alex at 1.63 KP ratio, because of the nature of the fights, where it is a lot of city hopping, it is a lot of just tapping one tap, so that instant proc damage obviously performing really well. And because of that, my Ashurbanipal YSG, my slowest march, and a march that needs that AoE skill to proc, actually trading negatively in this KVK. So I don't know, maybe later on in this KVK when we do get the artifacts, I will have to replace that YSG and maybe put the Joan of Arc Prime for Asher Joan of Arc Prime, just because of how successful that march has been for me in the past. But yeah, we will have the martial talent in the next fights here. The next fights will be in December 29th in the Altar of Darkness here. Won't be streaming it because I will be in New York, but I'll definitely be fighting in it still. Maybe I'll record it and create a video to recap that as well. But yeah, overall my march is not doing the best. I did go for 6 marches for this zone. Perhaps that was a mistake, quantity over quality in this case, but I'm kind of disappointed in my performance. But for the circumstances, I feel like it's all right. We could also look at the Autarch points in case you guys are wondering where I'm at. I'm at 253rd place in terms of kill points, 316th place in terms of dead points, and 353rd place in terms of healing points. Honestly, if you look at my kill points to heal points ratio, I'm 100 spots in kill points above my heal points, so not the worst. I'll hype them, by the way, killing it in both categories. My goodness, you know, when I was talking about there's people in 60 GT running out into the middle of the cities and just sad facing, yeah, that's I'll hype them, man. That is insane. Makote was solo filling some of those forts I saw on the other side. Our allies, by the way, also winning their side of the map as well. I don't have the detailed rundown because I was focused on our side, but shout out to 1188 and 1316. But this KVK is not over. We still have the past 7 fights on January 8th and the Kingsland fights on January 11th. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. We'll keep updating you guys, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.